Hello, everyone. I'm Gloria Vaughan. I'm a functional medicine health coach in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario. And I am so stoked to be here today because I get to interview and speak with Dr. Mitch Abrams from NexGenHealth. Hi, Dr. Mitch.
Hi, Gloria. It's awesome to be with you
Hi.
today. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome to talk with you today, too. Dr. Mitch, NexGen Health. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. I understand that you've had a really unique health journey and medical journey that changed everything for you. Can you share a little bit of your story with me?
Sure. Um,
Yeah.
so it started right in the very beginning of my first year of independent medical practice. I was diagnosed with a heart condition, and immediately within the first year from practicing medicine, I became a patient, and I
Mhm.
required open heart surgery. So, I really experienced our medical model from a completely different side. And it was just completely eye-opening for me. Now I was treated with excellent care, but I certainly noticed and became acutely aware of just the lack of compassion within the model of medicine. It's a system issue. And
Mhm.
this was really something that you know it really made me think about how we were treating patients and how we approached health and wellness. And as I went back to work, I then became the chief of a department and got to see the underbelly of how the healthcare model actually functions and the whole system, and realized through and through that our model is completely outdated. And it's just not, it creates a degree of healing on a very superficial level, but yet there is something missing in that whole healing process. And this, really catapulted me in a different direction. And I started traveling to India and looking at how other cultures approached health and wellness, and really
Mhm.
looking at mind, body, and spiritual health. And this whole spiritual science and the conversation of spirituality was so new to me. Not only was I learning to experience it for my own healing, but when I began looking at the science behind it and starting to look at how Western science was starting to finally pay attention to Eastern philosophies, looking at mindfulness and meditation,
Mhm.
it really helped me understand, well, this is what's missing within our system of care. And over the years of my own healing journey, my own learning, I understood that this had to be brought forth to our medical model. And NextGen was really born out of this passion and this need to share this with others, understanding the connection between mind, body, and spirit. And these are the three key tenets for health and wellness. And modern science has demonstrated this gold standard called the biopsychosocial model of care, which is just a really fancy way of saying mind, body, spirit.
Mhm.
And, we need to learn how to tactically apply this philosophy within our model of medicine. And ultimately, how do we cultivate deeper sense of connection to not just ourselves, but to each other? So that's, as
I
a,
absolutely love that.
uh,
My background is in yoga and meditation, but also as a functional medicine health coach. I really appreciate you bringing the science to the mind, body, spirit and integrating both because it's all connected, right?
it's absolutely connected. And without truly understanding that sense of connection, it doesn't matter how much money we throw at our medical model, we will not improve outcomes to where we want, because we're not nurturing a key element of ourselves and a key element to even just what it
Mm,
means to be healthy as a community. Research is fascinating because research shows that if you feel connected to a practitioner or to a friend when you're in a time of need, or if you're experiencing pain, that sense of connection literally will drop that perception of
mm,
pain over 50%. And what's happening physiologically within your own body between the two people, your heart rhythms, your nervous systems begin to synchronize with each other. So we're now beginning to understand energy. We're understanding ourselves as
Mhm.
energetic beings and how those energies are now interconnected. And the science of compassion, the science of heart, the science of spirituality is helping us understand how to cultivate compassion and what that actually, the effects, the drastic effects it has on our health and our wellness, our ability to perform. We need to best understand connection and community. And this is what I think that, the world drastically needs right now.
That's amazing. I don't think many people are aware of this yet. Um, so let's talk mental health for a moment because there is declining mental health in today's world and burnout. And I'd like you to share a little bit about burnout and mental health and its relationship to heart and health.
Sure. So burnout is a really big problem, and we're now becoming more aware of burnout. It's in the news. Physicians, for example, over 50% of doctors are experiencing burnout. Burnout is a true clinical diagnosis. It's been recently accepted by the World Health Organization as a true diagnosis. And it's when we feel emotionally exhausted, when we feel that no matter what we do, we're not making any difference in the world. We become cynical, and we just
Mm.
lose that sense of passion and purpose. And unfortunately, when people experience burnout, that degree of stress, that degree of loss of interest in life has a drastic effect not just on your mental health and your emotional well-being, but it also affects your physical health. Now,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
so when we experience these emotions such as burnout or depression or anxiety, as Einstein said, everything is energy. And interestingly, he said future medicine is the medicine of frequencies. So these
Mm.
emotions that we experience are forms of energy, and these energies are actually encoded within our biological systems. So, for instance, when you are feeling anger, or if you're afraid or anxious, that emotion is actually causing your heart rhythms to become very irregular. And just to be clear for
Mm.
everybody, there's different ways to measure heart rhythms. Obviously one is with an EKG and, looking at heart rate and heart rhythms. What we're talking about is something a little bit different. We're talking about heart rate variability, the time in between individual beats. And when you start to really look closely at patterns that exist within the heart rhythms, we begin to identify different patterns that are associated with emotions. So when you're feeling angry, that heart rate variability pattern becomes extremely irregular. It becomes, very noisy, as opposed to when you feel love, when you feel kindness or compassion, or you feel like you're
Mm.
just in the flow of life, your heart rhythms become very nice and rhythmic, very sinus, a sinus rhythm, as they would say. That's called coherence. And that coherent rhythm, that frequency that's in the heart, is actually now sending information up to your brain. It sends information throughout your entire body, and it creates an overall state of coherence, meaning your heart rhythms become synchronized with your
Mhm.
brain waves. And then they become phase locked and they feed into each other, and then they grow stronger in amplitude and strength. Now, what's happening is that your brain and your heart essentially is like a single organ. They're both optimized. So now, when you are perceiving the world, you have more awareness. You are able to become more mindful of your experiences. You're not being triggered by somebody who's coming at you, or might have said something nasty to you, or somebody who might put you off by a joke that just didn't land well. Instead of
Mm.
you absorbing that energy and reacting, you're able now just to reflect and respond from a place of heart-centered kindness, heart-centered compassion. And this is not just, great for your social relationships, but it's good for your own health. Because if you absorb this anger, or you get triggered, and that sparks a cascade of hormones that literally over time deteriorate your body. You're constantly in fight or flight response. We know, stress causes over 90% of all disease. And we're kind of caught in this
Yeah.
cycle of stress and angst. And we're able now to break that cycle by understanding how the heart functions. The heart is so much more than a pump. And when we understand the relationship between emotions and the role it plays with our heart coherence, how the body can begin to vibrate at optimal energetic frequencies for us to heal and to thrive, the more we're empowered with tools and strategies that we can work with throughout our day during challenging moments, even practice to change our baseline so that we're more often than not in a state of coherence, even when we're not practicing these techniques.
It's mind-blowing. That's amazing. So this coherence is something that we practice. And how often can we do it? How often should we do it?
So research shows that the more you practice, the easier it becomes, the greater coherence you can cultivate. So once you learn the technique, once you become acquainted with it, you can practice this, the more the better. And research shows that just even 5 minutes per day can actually cultivate a positive physiologic response that will last up to 4 hours. So imagine now if you practice 5 minutes a day, 3 times a day, morning, lunch, and dinner. You've covered most of your day. And I guarantee you, if you were just to try it, I guarantee you that you'll notice that that 5 minutes helps you reset and creates this sense of intention, this sense of awareness that will last for hours. And you'll become more aware of things in your life, and have opportunity to appreciate things that would otherwise be missed and passed by you because we're so stuck in, certain thoughts or loops and, stress.
It sounds like it enhances your overall well-being because it's obviously, as you explained, enhancing your health, but it's also enhancing your conscious moments, your
Yeah,
interactions, your experience in life. For somebody
absolutely.
brand new, how hard is it to cultivate a state of coherence
Oh, so
for
it's
someone
so
brand new?
simple. It's so simple.
Hmm.
It's almost like, how hard is it to, raise your hand, if asked to raise your hand? It's literally just learning that it's there, you have access to it. It becomes so simple. And much of it is, learning how to just become aware of listening to your heart and just taking slow, deep breaths. That will help you cultivate coherence. But once you become attuned with the technique, once you begin to practice it, then in the heat of the moment, in the middle of a conversation, you can focus your attention on your heart and kind of activate that coherence that nobody around you would know what you're doing. So it becomes a tool, a strategy, a mental strategy that anyone can use at any age, that just helps you, really get to that optimal state. And like you said, this is like up leveling your physiology, you're upgrading in these moments because
Yeah.
every thought is energy and an emotion is energy. And everything that you do is literally rewiring the brain. So the more you practice these techniques, the more that you're, you know, um, rewiring the brain and enforcing these new neurons. So it becomes now second nature. And then this becomes
Hmm.
just part of your life. And it becomes a very valuable tool. Everybody has access to it. It's so simple.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. You talk a lot about our interconnection. So, what does it mean that we are all connected? And how does that relate to coherence?
So connection could be understood at like multiple levels. I kind of think of it like an onion. There's multiple layers to the onion. And we're connected in a lot of different ways. But if we kind of look at the level of the heart, well, let's say you're in a meeting, you're starting the meeting, and
Hmm.
you, for the first 5 minutes, really focus and you just kind of create that state of inner coherence. Science shows that you can actually pull other people into a state of coherence. I'm sure,
How?
because the heart When you look at an EKG, you're actually looking at electricity that's running through the heart. Physics 101 tells us that anything that has electricity running through it also creates magnetic waves. This is called electromagnetic energy or electromagnetic radiation. So every individual, every living organism actually has a biomagnetic field around it. The coherence or the incoherence in the heart as a result of your emotional state is being radiated out in this field that's around you. And hence, other hearts are like tuning forks and will be listening and be immersed in this energy that you're radiating out into the world. That heart could either be pulled into a similar rhythm. So if you're having a bad day and you're angry and and people feel your vibe, you can also you can trigger other people, and then they're going to also get more anxious, and you're creating a very incoherent environment, and that is not a very productive way to have a meeting. But when you're feeling
Yeah.
great and you feel love and like just you're at ease, that state of coherence puts other people at ease. Now, intuitively, many people listening will be like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Like I experience that every day when I'm at work or when I'm at a party. Somebody walks in, I can feel, oh, negative Ned just showed up. We're starting to appreciate the mechanisms of action of our interconnectedness. So that's just one way of understanding that we are very deeply connected. Our self doesn't just stop at the boundaries of the physical body. We are connected. We extend our energy extends much further out into the environment. And not to get super deep into the quantum physics, but quantum physics is also now showing us that there's a field of energy that all atoms emerge from. So the atoms of your cells that make up the molecules, which make up the cells and, kind of creates you, we are all emerging from the same field. So the emotions you experience that affects the vibrations of your atoms is also being fed back into a field of energy that my atoms are emerging out of. And all of that information that you're experiencing in any moment is being fed back into a field of energy which my atoms are emerging from. And what the science is showing is that the information, that emotional state, that energy that you're experiencing is also rippled back into my atoms in a very energetic, subtle way. So again, there's multiple layers to the onion. There's multiple layers of looking at our interconnectedness. We're beginning to understand ourselves as a global community. Our systems are all interconnected. Ultimately, if you want to be healthy, you want to be happy, we need to feel connected. And it all starts with a feeling of connection to ourselves. And that's why I think the heart can really help change. It can create a paradigm shift in the way that we understand how to heal, how to address, social divide, and really, rethink
Yeah.
social infrastructure.
That's just so beautiful and so mind-blowing
Thank
to
you.
understand in its simplicity how profound it can be just with a relationship with ourselves, how much we can also affect others and their health and their well-being in societies and cultures and communities. It feels like this could be a healing movement. Am I right?
I 100% agree. We are at this fascinating moment in time because we're finally catching up. All of our technology, the fact that we're having this conversation,
Mm,
is all based on quantum
yeah.
physics. It's all based on an understanding that we're all vibration, we're waves, we're energy. Now we're at a point to understand ourselves as technology, and we're starting to appreciate, well, what are the implications of that shift from the Newtonian way of thinking towards a more quantum reality? What does that mean about our consciousness? How our thoughts can play a huge, and they in fact do play a huge role in our own health and our healing.
I hear you. I just read recently that over 90% of our thoughts are recycled day in and day out.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I'm understanding that our thoughts can influence our coherence, and our coherence can influence our thoughts, not only for ourselves, but for others too, because we're all connected. So tell me a little bit more about how other people can get involved. How can we help other people get involved in this movement and in these concepts and in coherence?
How can people get into this conversation? Well, number one, listening to this
Hmm.
recording, getting interested to just want to learn more, take a little bit of time just to pay attention to what we're talking about, because then you can learn a very simple exercise and you can practice. And we've created what we call the
Hmm.
laser challenge. The laser protocol is a very simple and effective technique to help people learn how to flex that mental muscle, connect to their heart, create coherence. And when we do it together, we can begin to appreciate our connection and our synchronization with each other.
Hmm.
So we've created the laser challenge. It's an 18-day challenge where we ask you to 5 minutes a day practice this laser protocol. Very simple, feel good, learn
Hmm.
to connect to your heart, become aware of that inner landscape that resides within us all. And once a week, you're invited to join live community coherence sessions. So every day, Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're bringing together people who want to practice and are committed to their own self-care, but they also begin to recognize our connection. And they're committed to the love for common humanity. So, we help guide people into coherence for the first 5 minutes, and then you can stay for as long as little as you like and just practice as a community. So this is as much about self-care as it is connection to community. And you can join these community calls as much as you like. And we're now training ambassadors who are starting to, host additional time slots. So the idea is people around the world having opportunities to connect together as a community to show how we can synchronize with each other, our heart rhythms, our nervous systems. We can synchronize through the intention of love and compassion and gratitude for ourselves and for each other. And part of the
Hmm.
laser challenge and part of this, what NexGenHealth is all about is showing you that we have accessible technology that people can use to not only track your own progress, but in these community coherence calls, we can actually measure our group coherence. We can witness this global oneness that we actually are. And this is an opportunity where we can learn to better connect to ourselves, but at the same time, we're laying the foundation for a new community health approach that's as much local as it is global in scope.
That's mind blowing too. That's so awesome. I
As
like how you say self care is a radical act. Why is that?
because we're so connected. If when we learn to love ourselves, when we learn to be compassionate to ourselves, not only are we releasing the old trauma and the old emotional energies that have cemented into our physical being that manifests as disease, when we learn how to release all this old stagnant
Hmm.
energy through self-love and compassion and kindness, we're now building a greater capacity to share compassion with others. We lead by example. Science is showing us that compassion is contagious. So by simply
Hmm.
participating in a laser challenge and you share on social media with your friends and your network that you're now practicing this heart coherence and you share your experience, you have a ripple effect. You have no idea that people who are tuning in and listening to you, they're more apt to become more compassionate themselves or to others. This is what science is showing us. So self-care is a
Wow.
radical form of social activism. And for anyone who's interested to learn
Hmm.
more about this, check out the Rosetta effect. Research that was done back in the 50s, where they identified this community that was super healthy. Their health metrics were twice as good as neighboring counties. And it was all because of this deep sense of connection. And if you Google it, you'll see this was the watershed moment that we began to appreciate that, wait a second, maybe community plays a role in our, real physical health.
I think we're wired as humans for community. We just somehow disconnected from that.
Absolutely. There's so many examples. I mean,
Yeah,
the fact that our hearts do this, right? That synchronizes with another heart, that connects to the rhythms. Um, we have mirror neurons. So when people, you see
right.
somebody, right, it's contagious.
That's
You
when,
know,
like, if I smile, you smile, right?
yeah. If you start
Yeah,
laughing uncontrollably in a room of people, right? Dollars to donuts, over time, the whole room's going to start to laugh. It's
right.
contagious. So we are really, just as you and I are made up of trillions of cells, and we are really a
Hmm.
super organism in the context of a cell, looking around of all the other trillions of cells, we are a super organism. Well, at the next
Mm.
scale, you and I and everybody, on this planet and all the animals, we are also a global community. We are like the cells of a human, but we are now cells of a global, planet Earth. And yeah, we are designed that way, and we are designed to connect. And unfortunately, we've lost that sense of connection. And now, more than ever, not only do we need it, but I think people intuitively are starting to feel it and starting to realize there's something greater than what we've been told up until now. And our our socioeconomic models were designed so long ago, at a time where we thought we were separate from each other. It's become like an old shoe, and it just doesn't fit anymore.
Hmm.
And I think that's why we're starting to see all of our systems starting to fail, starting to crumble and crack. Things just don't make sense. I mean, we could sit all day and look through the headlines and be like, it's like insane. It's almost like reality has turned into Saturday Night Live when you think of some of the craziness of it all. And I think it's just a matter of getting back to our sense of connection.
It has. I can tell you honestly, since I met you over a year ago and started practicing coherence on a regular basis, it's like I have tuned into that we are a part of a greater thing together. That it's
Yeah.
not just about us. Would you say that's a frequency?
Yeah, 100%. And in fact, so around the Earth, we have the magnetic field. Okay. The
Hmm.
first, the first magnetic line, the resonant frequency, if you think of it like a string of guitar and you were to pluck that string, it resonates at 0.1 hertz.
Okay.
Okay. Why is this important? When you cultivate coherence, that heart rate variability curve, that rhythm, is actually 0.1 hertz. So when you feel love, when you feel like you're in the flow of life, your heart is not only vibrating at 0.1 hertz, it synchronizes your brain waves, it synchronizes all of your biological organ systems to also resonate at 0.1 hertz. So now you are
Hmm.
vibrating at this optimal energetic state where now you're healing and you're thriving. Your energy is kind of being brought back towards all the resources that you have within you to be the best version of yourself. And it just so happens that you're now resonating at the inherent resonance of the planet. So it really makes sense as we begin to appreciate we are each part of this kind of global organism, just like the cells in your body. You want your cells to resonate at 0.1 hertz because we know that's the frequency of love. That's the frequency of growth.
Love, growth, compassion, sharing.
Yeah.
This will be slightly off topic, but I feel like the Beatles were really onto that.
Yes.
Do you have anything to say on that?
Well, I do actually. I think it's I love music. Music became a part of my life right around my heart surgery. And what I didn't realize in the beginning, as I began, playing music, this was, I literally bought my first guitar within the same week, within days of learning, I was going to have heart surgery. So as I started
Mhm.
playing music after my operation, there was a sense of healing that was taking place, not necessarily on the physical level, but in more of an emotional and mental level. And I was feeling that I was connecting to something much deeper than that I've ever experienced, something deep within me. I didn't even know was there. And it was almost as if
Mm.
it was expanding my internal space, my internal awareness. And I was starting to think differently. I was starting to engage with my own self and my life and my environment in a very different way as I began to think differently and feel differently, which was being born out of this music. And it wasn't until years later, when on my first trip to India, that we were chatting with somebody about music. And they said that in spiritual communities, in the ancient Vedas, there's no distinction between music and spirituality. And in fact, spirituality, that sense of deep connection, one of the ways to cultivate that and expand that consciousness is through music. So
Mm.
I,
Ah,
and the Beatles in fact did go to India, and that was a huge influence in their music at one point.
that's that's an amazing explanation. It really just brought a whole bunch clearer for me. I don't know if that'll get across here, but music, when you're really into feeling it and experiencing it, does open up your consciousness, doesn't it? Just
Oh yeah.
and it's vast. It's
And
amazing. It's amazing.
the beauty of that, Gloria, is that research also shows that when you are in the audience and you're listening to, let's say, a live, your favorite band, the
Hmm.
coherence of the performers, that not only are the individual performers of that group now synchronized, brain waves and scans show that these performers are synchronized with each other, creating this beautiful music, even though they're each doing their own individual parts and different instruments. Their
Wow.
biological systems are synchronized, and the audience members in turn become synchronized with the musicians. So you're creating a state of coherence, between
A
performers and
massive
audience.
one.
So
I
again, it's all
completely,
energy.
yeah, it's all energy. I'm really getting that on a big scale here.
And I just want to also just say
Yeah.
to viewers, like, I know that this conversation of energy, in the 60s, it sounded very, hippie and dippy. But, as a radiologist, I can say with, with certainty, I wouldn't think an MRI machine and a CAT scan, these technologies would not exist if it was not for the fact that we are each energetic beings. The cells are made of molecules, molecules are made of atoms, and atoms are 99.9999999% vacuum space. It's a vibration. We are beings of light. So when I'm looking at an MRI of a brain, and I'm literally looking at someone's brain like a loaf of bread, and I'm looking at each slice by slice, all because, without a scalpel blade, but all because we are energetic beings. I'm literally looking at the light of your atoms. So when we re-engage the conversation of energy, I want people to become aware that this is not hippy dippy stuff. Radiologists wouldn't have jobs.
Hmm.
You wouldn't be able to, there would be no diagnostic imaging in medicine if it wasn't for this fact of energy. Energy is key.
And that's how you bridge the science to the spirituality right there. And that is, again, to kind of come back to what I first said, studying meditation and yoga, but not understanding that there's this massive science side to it,
Mhm.
and bridge together makes us all healthier beings and creates a healthier world
Yeah. Yeah.
as
100%. And
well as
that,
well-being.
I love that. And
Yeah.
the beauty, and this is kind of what next gen health in the philosophy is, we say, look, we can access our potential in a variety of ways. We can access and approach
Mhm.
energy through intellectually understanding the science behind it, but that's only half the equation. We have to practice, you need to experience. And by learning the
Mhm.
science behind it creates more context to the practice. And so,
Mhm.
you know, it's quite amazing. The science is mind-boggling. Like the science now is it's as much entertaining and fascinating as it is educational. And this is where I think we're going to see, a new approach to health and wellness, where people are going to become empowered. They don't have to wait to until they're sick and go to a hospital to be treated. They're going to get access to this information, and they're going to be interested to dive more, deeply into this conversation of energy, because it's not just about their health, but they're going to better understand the way that they think. They're going to understand the relationship to this divine essence, call it God or Allah, call it universal consciousness or the quantum field, whatever it is. But once you begin to appreciate that at a slightly deeper level, then you can begin to play with it. And when in the moment you
Mhm.
feel it, once you have a taste, it's like, oh my
Mhm.
God, the whole a whole new world opens up. And we're starting to see it. I mean, it's happening now. There's millions of people, that are kind of awakening to their true self, that's creating a transformation on an individual level. And I believe that we're on the cusp of this kind of massive revolution of heart,
Mhm.
and beginning to understand that, the way that our system is divided, and 1% ruling 80, over 80% of all resources. And we're like, these dynamics is from an artificial way of thinking. It's actually not based on who we are, what we are individually and collectively.
I really feel like it's needed now more than ever. And I think the world is really, really ready for something different. And I
Yeah.
love that it's accessible immediately, that it's free. I love how you said once you get a taste of it, you understand
Mhm.
it and you want to do it.
Yeah.
Tell me how we can get more involved and what is next.
So there's a few ways. Well, one, I mean, follow us on social media. Visit our website,
Hmm.
nextgenhealth.solutions. You can sign up for the
Hmm.
laser challenge. Once you sign up, you're going to be provided everything that you need. You'll get a video of learning how to use the laser protocol, the free app that's available so that you can begin to measure your own heart rhythms in real time. You'll get the Zoom links to join
Okay.
us, community. So you'll get everything that you need. Um, and what's really exciting is that one of the ways that we are helping spread this to the world is through rad art.
Hmm.
And rad art is actually,
Mm.
it stands for Radiologist Developed Autonomic Rewiring Therapy. And the way that it works is that we have artists that are trained in understanding energy and ways of the heart. And once certified, they will join me on stage or with any kind of program, and they will capture the energy of that collective learning and healing together in their art through
Mm.
their heart. And then that art becomes a mechanism that can raise money through corporate sponsorships or through sales, that then can be used. Those proceeds can be used to spread more heart, more resilience, and mental health programs in communities in need and in schools. So we've created
Wow.
cycles of
Wow.
compassion. So learning more about your heart, learning more about the science of compassion, learning about our connection can actually be transformed and translated into tangible dollars that can be put back into our communities. So, again, check out our website, and there's just lots of
Hmm.
ways to connect and really learn about your heart.
And do you have ambassadors? Do you have an ambassador program? Ambassadors
We
like
should
myself?
100%. We have,
Yeah.
yeah. So so we have ambassadors, people who, once they really tune into the conversation and once they kind of connect to their heart, it's so infectious, it's so empowering that people want to
Mm.
become ambassadors. So we now have senior ambassadors like Gloria, who want to bring this to the world. And it's beautiful because you can bring this into whatever work that you're doing, whatever
Hmm.
area that you're involved in. The heart can play a beautiful role, and it just enhances whatever it is that you're doing. So
Hmm.
by and what the beautiful thing as well is that ambassadors are creating community through these community calls. So we're building community
Hmm.
locally, but those communities are also part of the global community. So it becomes,
It's all connected.
it's all connected. We feel connected to something bigger than ourselves, and it's like a domino effect. So if you're interested in becoming ambassador, please let us know. And there's courses on the website. There's things to sign up for. But again,
Okay.
I'm not here to sell anything. There's lots of free
No.
opportunities to connect to the heart, and I think that's the main thing that I want people to walk away with.
Yeah. That's a huge, amazing bonus of all this is that it's here to make the world a better place
100%.
and a healthier place. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Mitch.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gloria.